Welcome back to Arizona Business Spotlight. I'm your host, Helen Gibson. You're watching Verde Valley TV. Remember that you can watch Arizona Business Spotlight at your leisure on verdevalleytv.com. Go to our YouTube channel. Right there, just click on it and you can watch all the past episodes. Joining me right now on Arizona Business Spotlight is Steve Palmer with Westcott Funeral Home. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you for having me.
This is a subject that sometimes is hard for people to talk about, but I always say this, it's the last thing you think about, but it's the first thing you need.
Correct.
If there's an emergency, and that's a funeral home. Mm-hmm. My father passed away a year ago, so I have been anxious and eager to educate our viewers on what is available with Westcott Funeral Home, specifically about the benefits of planning ahead.
Planning ahead is the wisest thing to do because people buy fire insurance in case they have a fire. They do all these different things, but we know we're going to need this. And to keep putting it off is the wrong thing to do. So almost any age, people can plan. They can always update their plans as their life changes and so forth. People tell me, the older folks, they say, number one, my kids will handle it. And I say, how many kids do you have? And they'll say 3. And I'll say, have they ever agreed to anything in their life? And they say no. And they realize that this could be a fight that will tear apart a family. Because they got 3 different opinions and there's only one answer, and someone's going to be the loser and someone's going to be the winner, and it's going to cause resentment for years to come. And the other thing is when people say, oh, my kids will, they mention their kids, we're going to go down pre-plan, and then the kids say, oh, don't worry about that, we'll take care of it. Same answer. The thing is, you know what you want, you know what you can help plan for your spouse, and then it's done. And when we open up that file when that time comes,
that's it.
The argument stops right there.
That's right, and families have split over issues of burial or cremation, or how the service, is it going to be religious or non-religious, and if you plan ahead, it's all
set.
It's all set. So for a pre-planning session, we would just call Westcott Funeral Home, 928-634-9566. Or we can go to the website too, right, westcottfuneralhome.com, because some of the forms you can do online.
There's a planning information, both a guide and a form to fill out, and then we'll email it to us. And normally what we do is we'll call you back or contact you in the way that you prefer to let you know that we received it and would you want to do anything further.
So what are some of the other services that Westcott Funeral Home has to offer Verde Valley?
Well, one of the things that we do that no other funeral home in this area, as far as we know, it does, is we do grief support groups. We do that 3 times a year. We started off, almost 20 years ago, and we started at the holidays because we were getting a lot of phone calls from people telling us that they just couldn't face the holidays. And so we started off with that, and now we do a Saturday morning, and then we give them lunch afterwards, and now we do it for 6 weeks on a Tuesday night from 4 to 5:30, and we give them dinner afterwards. So you have a support group and you can pick it up any time. So people don't have to be there for all of them. But it's a growing group. It's amazing. Right now we're in our session. We have, I think, close to 20 people there. One of them had a death 17 years ago. Other people have just had a death within the last few months. So you got every group, every age. We have a young couple that lost a child. We have an older woman, the one who was 17 years, she lost a child that far back. And so she's dealing with it, and now she's helping the younger couple. So it's a really great situation. We do it near the holidays, right between Thanksgiving and Christmas usually, and then we do it in the springtime, and then we also do it in the fall.
So people can go on to westcottfuneralhome.com and get all this information about how to join one of the grief counseling, grief support.
Grief support, yes.
You know, my brother passed away 25 years ago, and my father passed away a year ago. And it's, it still stings, but just hearing you talk that there's other people that have suffered the same type of loss and they share their grief and support one another, that's a beautiful thing. It really is community. And that you're making that available shows that you're really invested in the whole process of helping people pre-plan. And you don't know what you don't know. So a lot of times we need to just maybe call and just say, what should we be thinking about as far as, what about death away from home? Something like that.
Yeah, and that's our biggest thing is to show people we're not just there for the 3 days or whatever between the death and whatever service that we're providing, a burial, cremation, whatever, that we want to be there to help them through, because to just turn them back loose and say, go ahead and face the world without any support. So the grief groups, we help them with paperwork and insurance, we help them with veterans benefits, we help them, with obituaries and other things like that. So, we try to continue on the care for that family with that, and for these other things, there's no additional cost, for that. I mean, and also like our grief groups are open to any family, whether we've served them or not.
Oh, wow.
So
that's amazing. So the veterans benefits, that's a big key. We're coming up on Veterans Day, November 11th. That's right around the corner, and we really need to honor our veterans, and so they may not even know what kind of benefits are out there.
Most of them do not, and we're a member of a Veterans Funeral Care, which is a network of funeral homes, over 100 funeral homes across the country, who specialize in keeping up with veterans benefits and know how to help veterans benefits and know the honors that are available and so forth, so that we have all the forms on our computer, we know the resources. We work with the VFW posts and the other posts around the area. They all have service officers. Luckily we have an office here in town, but we can get them started, and we can make the original application, which opens up the door with the VA for them, and then the VA will contact the family and tell them, okay, we looked up his record, this is what he's entitled to.
Wow.
And so it's good. And then we also, we make sure that they all have a flag, certainly for their service, and we also give them a flag case with a name on it, so that they can immediately display that flag when they get home, rather than, they put it in the closet saying, someday I'll find a flag case and so forth. But this way they can put it right on the mantle on the bookshelf as soon as they get home from the funeral. And
so it's attention to detail, and the Westcott name is integrity at the highest level, and so I know that when people lose a loved one, again, it's the last thing you think about, the first thing you need. People don't want to think about it, but hopefully they're listening right now and they're going to do the pre-planning, because that would alleviate so much of the stress, because when a loved one dies like that, it's just, you got family members coming in, everybody has an opinion, people are emotional, they're sensitive, and like you said, a breach can happen in that moment. So I keep going back to the pre-planning.
It's a gift for the children, because they're so happy when they get a call in Chicago and they find out their mother just died, and then they're going to have to get on a plane, they're thinking, and nothing can happen until they're sitting at our table, and all of a sudden you say, no, your mother and father took out a plan, they prepaid it, and here it is, we'll get working on it, this is what they went over. What we always encourage is to give your kids a copy of the plan.
Yes.
And we will make those up and send those off, so that way they can go over it before they get on the plane. And so we said we can start it underway, and by the time you get out here, we'll be moving. So things are going to be happening. You don't have to wait and feel frozen until you get out here.
And in pre-planning, specific needs, like if families want to be buried together or things like that, we have people that one spouse wants to be cremated, one spouse wants to be buried, and you can do that, and they can be buried together, so that those kinds of things that people don't realize. Cremation obviously is a growing popular choice for some people because we're in a retirement area that no one has roots in really, and so if people don't understand all the options that you can have with cremation, that you can have a full traditional service with viewing with a rental casket and then have cremation afterwards. And you can have a private viewing and have a memorial service. There's all sorts of options that people just don't even think of. And they say, well, I don't know what to do after cremation with we call them the cremains, the ashes. And I'll say, well, you can, you have a family heritage plot somewhere, probably back in Michigan or Minnesota or Wyoming, wherever you come from. We can send the urn back there, and they can be buried with grandma and grandpa, because they'll always have room for another urn back there. And that way, families with family. And we never knew that. Veterans, there's no charge for the cemetery portion for a veteran, so that, whether they cremated, and again, if the veteran is going to be buried in a casket and the wife wants to be cremated, whatever, they still can be joined together. So. Right. And you mentioned prepaid. I think that's an important thing to go over with people that are watching. Everything's taken care of.
Yeah.
So other family members aren't worried about how to pay for your funeral. So prepaid.
Yeah, and I always say there's three forms of prearrangement. One is pre-planning, telling us what you want. One is pre-selecting. So you say, I want to look at the urns, I want to look at the casket, and so you put down those selections. People will know, is it a simple urn, a simple or a very complex urn, or do you want a special type of urn? And the other one, or a casket obviously, and then the other one is pre-financing, prepaying it. So that way it's a guaranteed purchase. So everything, when we have a list of what we call guaranteed statement of funeral goods, all those things are guaranteed. So regardless whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, it's guaranteed. Whatever's on that list is guaranteed by the funeral home. And it's also transferable, so that if all of a sudden dad dies and mom has to go back to the family in Nebraska to be cared for there, her plan can follow her back there. It's her plan.
Transferable. Oh, that's...
Government regulated.
Yep.
So it's by each state has, watches these things, and the family has access to the company anytime for any questions they have.
So Westcott Funeral Home, Steve Palmer, you have thought of everything, and it takes somebody with a very strong love for humanity and a compassion to be in the funeral home business. It takes a special person and sensitive, that can be academic too.
Yeah.
Because it's a very emotional.
It's a calling. I mean, if you don't like to do this kind of thing, there's a lot easier ways to make a living, I'm telling you.
Right.
It's a 24/7, and you put up with some of the biggest tragedies out there, and you try to help people. The worst has happened to them. You try to get them back into a more normal life by your help.
Well, thank you, Steve Palmer, for being on Arizona Business Spotlight. Westcott Funeral Home, they're there for you. Now remember, on Arizona Business Spotlight, we always say you can and you will. Dream big and go for it. We'll see you next time.